Welcome to the Health Angle Podcast with Dr. Mike Headlee and Dr. Gordon Fimreite, where we'll be exploring different angles of health to achieve the best version of yourself. Now, here's your hosts, Dr. Mike and Dr. Gordon.
Welcome, everybody. I am Dr. Mike. With me is Dr. Gordy, as always, and we have a special guest interview today, Jenae Leach. Welcome, Jenae.
Hi, excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here too. So I'm going to kick things off and read your bio, and then we'll ask you some questions. And I'm really excited to dive into this topic. And here we go. Jenae holds a BA in psychology and master's in clinical nutrition. She is a YTT 200 certified yoga instructor, teacher, emotional eating coach, and certified holistic health coach through the Institute of Integrative Nutrition. She currently is working towards her CNS, Certified Nutrition Specialist credential, which is the most advanced certification for personalized nutrition practitioners. Her unique coaching style weaves together the science and spirituality of health to help her clients find peace and ease with their bodies, food, and fun so they can live their healthiest, happiest lives. She's passionate about helping women improve their confidence and obtain optimum health by getting to the root of their problems. So we'll be talking about how to find the root of people's problems. She believes in balancing nutrition and exercise in a sustainable way that not only helps you feel good, but also reduces stress. Very impressive, Jenae.
Yeah, thanks.
And welcome.
I feel like that was helpful. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's a lot, but you've done a lot of work for it. So that's why we had you on the show, because you have a wealth of information we want to dive into. So to get things started, could you just give us a brief insight on how you first got interested in health and wellness related topics, maybe your backstory? I'm kind of curious if you were a healthy kid. Did you eat your vegetables, or did you sneak Halloween candy and eat a lot of sugar? Give us a little insight into your story.
Well, we all did our best that we could in the 90s, when Dunkaroos made their debut. But honestly, I was actually pretty healthy. I think my mom loved like daytime talk shows. So she was always like watching Oprah and different things like that. So I would be watching those with her, and they'd always have, special guests and people on there that would be talking about like nutrition things, and all of that's changed so much since then. But I mean, it got me interested in it because I felt like it was on there all the time. But then as I got older and I was getting into sports and things, I'd have coaches who would be like, oh, you need to eat to fuel your body. And I didn't really understood what that meant, but I was kind of like pulling things from what I learned when I was younger, watching shows with my mom, like, oh, well, they said vegetables were healthy. And, so I kind of went through that. But obviously, like, you're influenced by peers and different things like that. So there was times where, of course, middle school, high school, you're just doing the best you can, eating pizza and all the things. But when I got older, I found that all my classes that I was taking, even in high school, when I was able to start choosing, I was still choosing mostly health classes. I'd choose like the nutrition classes. And then I got really into like psychology. But even with that, I'd always, like, most of my undergrad studies were surrounding like eating disorders. And it always just kind of went back to nutrition. So finally, I was just like, you know what, I need to go get my master's in this. And that was kind of, I don't know. I had my own like certain health things that were going on, but never anything super, some people have like this journey where they have this light bulb moment, but for me, it was just kind of always there. Yeah.
Jenae, I'm Dr. Fimreite. I haven't met you. So welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. I read over your bio, and I got to say, it's quite impressive. You have a lot of abbreviations at the end of your name for titles. Out of all that experience, how do you apply that to your current patient or client load, and what perspectives do you take in those realm? How do you intermix your different experience? So you got some yoga instructing certificate, you got your nutrition, you got some psychology. You come from a well-rounded repertoire of experience. How do you kind of maneuver around that for your clients and help them? And what are your typical clients?
Yeah, so it all just kind of meshes together, honestly, because when I went through my coaching certification, that pulled in a lot of stuff that I learned from my psych classes. So I had that really nice foundation, like, where is this maybe coming from? And then just using that as a foundation and bringing that in to coach people through different things, relearning habits, mindset shifts, things like that, because you can tell them a million times to eat more vegetables, but if they are not, changing their identity around, maybe there's someone who's like, I don't eat vegetables. You kind of have to break through that a little bit and figure out how to do that. That's a really generic example. But with yoga and bringing in that side of it, movement, is medicine too, in a form. Obviously, like we know that if we're sedentary, if we're not moving, that we become stagnant and things aren't moving, energy's not flowing. So with yoga, I don't always use the physical modalities with it, but again, it's more coaching within that space where they meet. I have a lot of women that's who I primarily am working with. They need help with boundaries and expectations and stress, which is very depleting in so many ways. And you can do a lot with nutrition, but again, if we're not getting to the, like, why is this happening? We're not changing mindset, we're not changing thought patterns, we're not changing all these other things, we're not going to make any changes specifically. So I'm able to take all of that, the nutrition side of it, the yogic side of it, where we're looking at like no expectations and non-attachment, and using different breathing modalities to help them, work on their stress response. And basically just I use all of it together. It's not really separate ever, unless someone specifically like, do you have a yoga class, or is there some like yoga pose that I should do for this? Do you have a specific breathing technique? Then yes, I will give them that. But for the most part, it's all just kind of interwoven together. I hope I answered that okay.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Very good. Very good. Jenae, maybe towards our end, we'll ask for some 1 or 2 tips and some action items, action steps they can do. So I'm curious if there's one specific niche that you really, really love to see. You said you mostly work with women, like, is it a digestive disorder or eating disorder or bowel issues or headaches, or is there one thing that you're absolutely lights out, really an expert at?
I don't know that we can ever be an expert at anything. Things change so fast, but I love working with women. Yes, specifically. I have had men clients, and honestly, they're easier. If you tell them to do something, they just kind of do it. Women are like, but I have this, and this, and so that I do love women because they, I relate to them a little bit more. I typically like working with mothers because there's a lot of limiting beliefs that they have about what they're able to do and accomplish. And that ends up really impacting their hormones and their gut. So to answer your question a little bit more specifically, I typically hone in on hormones and gut health. Those are my main niche, honestly. But I feel like you can't have one without the other. So if I'm working with someone and their hormones are kind of funky, we a lot of times will find out that the root of that is probably coming from something with their gut, and the root of that is probably coming from stress. So if we take it back, it kind of all goes together. But I really love with like helping women with their with balancing their hormones, because we've been told so many times that we're supposed to like have these really horrible cycles. We're supposed to feel horrible during the month, and that's just not true. I've helped many women where they're just like, oh, it came and it went and I didn't even notice. I'm like, that's exactly how it's supposed to be. We don't have to feel horrible. And then there's the shift between, the 30s and our 50s or 60s when we're moving in towards menopause. And that's it's finally being talked about a little bit more now, but women have been led to believe that they're crazy and they've just been given like birth control and things like that. And that doesn't need to happen either. So I think there's a time and place for that, but the research is showing that it's we end up giving them more medications to help cover up things than actually finding the root of it. So
Very cool. I bet that's super
awesome.
rewarding to help people. Do you get a lot of people that are taking maybe synthetic hormones or drugs and say, I don't feel good. I don't want to get off this. Tell me how to do it and balance things natural?
Yes. Yes. And I love that. I love doing that. Because you can see such a change. I've had multiple clients where they'll come in with really high anxiety. Birth control depletes a ton of nutrients, which we don't talk about that either. But some of those are, certain specific B vitamins and magnesium where we're missing cofactors in making neurotransmitters. So then they end up with this anxiety and then they get depressed and it's like this spiral effect. And once they come off, they're like, oh, I feel like my fog is lifted, and we get them on, a specific supplement regimen to help replete a lot of that, and get them nutrient dense foods and reworking some things, and they feel so much better. It does take a little bit of time for that to happen, but a lot of times they realize that fog is lifted, and that correlation is like, oh, they put that puzzle piece together and they're like, oh, it's not me. It's not me.
So just to summarize, if you put in a list of the top 3 type of symptoms that somebody comes in, usually women come in, if you could rank it 1, 2, and 3, for our viewers who may be watching this, what are the top 3, very top 3 that you really see on a regular basis, and you have a specific protocol?
Yeah, I always work with the person in front of me. I don't have anything templated. It's all very person-based. We have an initial, between myself and the other dietitian I work with, we do an onboarding call. She kind of vets them a little bit, where she'll do like a little bit of a discovery call, kind of find out what's going on with them. And then once we get the person, we kind of get like a baseline of what's going on, then I usually will take them through an onboarding call, which lasts about an hour or so. Prior to that, they would have filled out 2 different questionnaires. We do a health history questionnaire, which has, it is kind of what it sounds like. So we're going into their history, asks about any specific life traumas, because those do make a difference. And then a health assessment questionnaire, and it's kind of detailed. They both take a little while to fill out, but the health assessment has specific areas that it's focused on. Like there's a digestive portion, there's a hormone portion, there's like an adrenal assessment, there's blood sugar, there's a whole bunch of different things. So by the time I get to them, I kind of have like sort of my idea of what's going on, but then I like to hear their story, where they're coming from. And yeah, so from there, then we're able to kind of put all those pieces together and start at least like some sort of baseline plan to get them some foundation started. Depending on what's going on, we'll have them go for labs right away. And those can be a few different things. It really depends on the person. The most I see a lot of painful cycles. I see a lot of anxiety. Bloating is, it could be hormonal, it could be just digestive stuff, but that's another one that I see constantly. Bloating, PMS, or like really painful periods, and anxiety. Those are like the top 3 for sure.
Any a quick thumbnail, can you maybe go over one of your favorite clients where you literally changed or even felt like you saved their life because their PMS was so bad, they're bloating, they've tried everything to lose weight, they just feel bloating, don't even like to eat, and they're so stressed? Can you maybe just change their name and give an example of how you've helped one of your favorite clients?
Oh yeah, I have a couple, but yeah. One was a mother. She's in her mid-30s. She came to me. She'd been working with a coach before, doing more just like physical, more of aesthetic type coach. And she was having a really hard time with weight loss. She had gotten some blood work done, and it showed her blood sugar was really crazy. She was pre-diabetic, and her doctor was like, oh, you should go on metformin. And she's like, no, I don't really want to. She was on birth control. She was taking a bunch of anxiety medications. She was bloated a lot. She had quite a few things going on when we first started talking. So right away, we did all the onboarding things and kind of figured out where a lot of that was coming from. Yes, she was super stressed out. She had 3 little boys, so she had a lot of things going on. So some of it was reworking mindset and adjusting priorities, making herself a priority, because a lot of mothers get into that where they don't allow themselves to do things for themselves. And I'm like, no, you have to. And it's so good for them to see that you're taking care of you, right? So we started kind of with those foundations. We ended up doing a Dutch test, which is a dried urine hormone test where we're looking at the metabolites of certain hormones. And we found out she was veering towards more of like a PCOS profile. Obviously I can't diagnose that, but if you're looking at the labs, that's kind of what it was looking like. Her insulin was really high. She had a bunch of other things going on. So we adjusted her diet. That was primarily what we did right away. We did some targeted supplementation to help with blood sugar, really worked on balanced meals. And over time, she started feeling better. We focused on, doing the basics, water, sleep, movement in a way that felt good for her. Cause she wanted to look a certain way. So she was just overdoing it. And I'm like, girl, you're already stressed out. Let's take it down a notch. This is where, maybe doing some, more walking and like weightlifting only a couple days a week was helpful for her. But we got her to a place where she was able to get off her anxiety medication. She had so much more patience for her kids. She was able to go to their all of their different sports and not freak out, but oh my gosh, I have so much stuff to do, and she ended up losing 20 pounds and wow. Her blood sugar went from, it was 110 and we got it into the 80s. So
wow. Incredible. Yeah. What's the typical age of the people that you see? That's one question. I'm going to do a double question here. Okay. Second question is, do you ever find that there's one thing in our society or lifestyle that just comes up over and over and over, whether it's the type of foods these people eat or obesity or just aren't getting enough exercises or things that just pop up? So the average age that you see with women's health, and what is the typical things that's at the causation of these problems?
Yeah. So typically I'm working with women from the ages of late 20s to mid 40s is kind of the age range that I typically get. I'll get some outliers here and there, but that's generally where we're sitting. What I see a lot as far as things that we're missing, movement is huge, hydration is huge, and poor sleep. Mm. Women too are also really under-proteined. They're not, I think the idea of for women is that, this is kind of what I've gathered over time is just, it's extra calories, so they just don't want to add it. Same with fat, that's another one too, but protein for sure is always really low. They'll eat their vegetables. I don't have as much problems with that with the women that I'm currently working with, but getting them to eat protein is so hard.
Wow. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about protein too. I know my wife is reluctant to take it. And I know other women, I don't want to get bulky or, if I'm exercising, there's misconceptions. I'm sure you run into the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you.
Inflammation and blood sugar are two of the other ones that will pop up a lot too. Just getting
Absolutely. That we could talk for hours on just blood sugar, on inflammation, and we did a podcast recently about that. I'm going to throw you both a curveball here because none of this is scripted. But could you give us a quick analysis of what each of us had for supper? If it was, since you focus a lot on hormones and gut health, could you tell us if it was okay for our hormones as males and if it was okay for our guts? I'll go first. I had homemade chicken wild rice soup and 2 pieces of homemade sourdough bread.
Really depends on you as a person. Do you feel good after eating that?
I feel good. I want to go get another bowl and another piece of bread.
Yeah, I feel like your body tells you if it's something that doesn't work with you, you're going to know. Do you feel lethargic and crappy after you eat it? Or do you feel energized and good, like how you're supposed to after you eat, right? Dairy doesn't always work with everyone. I don't know if that was a cream-based soup, but it can work with a lot of people. So a lot of times we'll find that if there's a sensitivity to dairy, it's typically lactose if they don't have the enzyme from a genetic SNP that'll bother their belly. If they're sensitive to it for another reason, it's probably leaky gut, right? And then you're going to be sensitive to a whole bunch of things. But no, it sounds like it's good. You probably could have handled a couple more veggies, but
yeah, there was a few in the soup, but yeah, it was light on the veggies.
Would you say that when you eat something, what you feel afterwards, that's a pretty big marker? So if someone is, eating something that they probably don't even know it's bad for them, and all of a sudden the next day or even that night they got bloating, they're burping, they're, have gas. So is that's a pretty big thing for you that you see what they eat and how they feel afterwards?
Yep, exactly. Yeah. I see that a lot. So a lot of my clients will do, I don't focus specifically on weight loss. I love that as like a byproduct, but we're doing food logs so we can see symptomatically like, hey, is this food loving you back or is this hurting you, right? Because we don't want to keep eating something that's going to be inflammatory. If it's causing, like if you're sensitive to it, oats, that one's been popping up a lot. I've had like 3 or 4 clients be like, I took oats out for a while and I added them back in and now I'm having all those symptoms again. I'm like, see, and we would have no idea if we didn't do a food log. But yeah, I see that a lot where even up to 3 days later, you can have a reaction, which it makes.
Would you say that a lot of people are cued into that? It seems like it might be something a lot of people overlook and pay no attention. Oh, yeah. And all of a sudden the next day they might feel these symptoms and they're probably not even correlating to what they're eating.
Yep. All the time. Or I'll have someone who I'll run a GI map when you can see like antigliadin levels that are super, super high with these people. And they're like, well, I took gluten out for like, a week and I didn't notice any difference. I'm like, okay, well, those antigens are going to stay in your body for like a month. And we need to get those out first. Because now if you have something, you're going to know right away. You're going to feel that. So making sure that they actually.
You find it hard managing expectations because, as healthcare practitioners, there's a certain level of patience, and a lot of people run out of patience pretty quickly. We live in a quick fix society. I want to get fixed. I want to get fixed right now. And there's just a level of kind of managing expectations. What is your experience with that? And what's typical?
Right away, I messed up as a practitioner and I did not put expectations out there. And I think, I learned my lesson real quick that you have to go into these more advanced, like more difficult, challenging cases with expectations set at the beginning. Like, hey, this might take a good 6 weeks to even get a baseline of what's going on with you, like between testing and like doing food sensitivities and eliminations and things like that. That's baseline. We're not even going to, if your goal is fat loss, we're not going to touch that for at least 6 months. And they have to be okay with that, like going into it. So,
and another question they add that, how long did they wait for this to build up before they went to see you?
Oh yeah.
Probably more than 6 months.
Oh yes, for sure. Yeah. I get sad when I've been to other practitioners and I didn't get help, and we sometimes see that too, where we're not going fast enough. So then they'll hop from people to people. And then I just feel bad because I'm like, you're never going to get what you need because you're not sticking to a protocol long enough to see results. So being consistent and diligent and sticking to the plan, your practitioner, if they're doing their job right, they're going to pivot like, oh, hey, this isn't working. Let's try something else. And that's not because we don't know what we're doing. It's because we don't know how your body is going to respond. Everyone has a different response time. There's so many different nuances and like variables that come into play that we, if you got all of a sudden, your dog had cancer, like that's going to throw a wrench in the thing. I just had that happen. That's why we're middle of a gut protocol and she's like, my dog has cancer. I'm like, wow, that's going to change some things. So we're obviously going to take a pause and reevaluate some things, but yeah, so it's definitely person dependent.
All right,
interesting. Thanks for
Jenae,
sharing.
thank you for that dialogue. That was very informative. I'm kind of curious if you would analyze Dr. Gordy's dinner tonight.
Yeah.
I must be on a fast, Dr. Mike, because I haven't had dinner yet.
So you tell her what you're going to have.
Let me think of a dinner that I typically would have, and it varies. A lot of times I'll get scrambled eggs, throw a little oat milk in, put some Himalayan salt on top of that, mix some frozen vegetables, carrots, broccoli, cauliflower, and sometimes I'll put a little bit of Himalayan salt in that. So I would say that's my healthier dinner, I think. But what's your assessment?
I would just watch out for the oat milk. Well, it's not always, it's just like oats without anything. And sometimes they'll just add emulsifiers and fillers and all sorts of weird things that just are unnecessary. If you handle oat, like almonds, or nuts well, there's certain milks that, like Califia Farms has an organic one that's just nuts in the milk, in nuts and water. It's like just that's it. And that's kind of what I prefer, especially if we're working on some gut stuff, because you don't want to have those fillers in there messing with.
So I always used to do like kind of a rice milk, and it's not that much. It's just like probably half a cup or so. And then I got this new app. It's YUKO, Yuko. And when you go to Yuko, it looks something like this. Let me just pull one up. Here's just an example. Can you guys see that? You probably can't. But what Yuko does is you scan the barcode, and then it comes up and it ranks on a scale of 1 to 100. 100 is the best. And then, of course, 1 or 2 is horrible, unhealthy. And then it'll break it down to what's good and what's bad about it. It's actually a very interesting app. So when I decided, I'm not sure if rice milk is the best thing, even though I don't have much, I used the Yuko app, started barcoding the different types of milk. And the particular oat milk that I scanned actually had a higher ranking than the rice milk. I know we're getting in detail, which is unnecessary, okay. But I found this app kind of very interesting because it really broke down why it was harmful or not, along with additives or preservatives, and if you're getting too much sugars, et cetera, et cetera. So is there any apps out there that you recommend?
Well, I've actually heard of that one. I think Dirty is actually a pretty good one. It sounds kind of funky, but it has the same deal. You can barcode things, but it does it with other products too, not just food. So if you're someone who's maybe looking for, getting a cleaner lotion or body wash or something like that, it's going to give you those levels. I don't use a ton of apps though, but probably because I just know because I find my products and then I just stick with them.
Who needs an app when they have an expert like you in your community? So that's a good thing.
That's not me.
Well, we only have about 5 or 6 minutes left, so I'm going to do a couple rapid fire questions, Jenae. Probiotics for the average person, yes or no, or do you need to be specific?
Probably not. You're probably better off just eating a good variety of foods because you're going to build up the good bacteria that are in there. A lot of times if we're doing just a random probiotic, just throwing it out there, you don't know if you have overgrowth of those bacteria. You don't have any idea what's happening. And some of them aren't even good or worth your money. So, yeah.
Any 1 or 2 tips to help people with stress?
Watch your breathing. Are you breathing through your nose? Or are you breathing through your mouth? To help with stress, walk, get outside, get sunlight. Yeah.
And I have one more, and then Gordy can ask. I know that you're married, have a couple kids, have businesses with your husband, involved in your kids' sports and activities and community and a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious if people are doing the same thing you're doing, how do you keep your health, your family's health as a top priority and still juggle everything that you're doing? How do you keep that going? How do you spin all the plates at once and still put your health as a top priority?
I make it non-negotiable. My girls are older too, and get them involved. Like when they were younger, it would get them involved. Like, let's go for a walk, or Mom's going to do this workout. You can do it next to me. for workouts specifically, I just do the thing. I know even if I don't have it in my calendar, I will figure it out some way because it makes me feel good. And I know that if I don't do it, I'm a much crabbier person. So I do prioritize that. For like food and things like that, I at least have a good idea of what I'm going to make for the week. I do recommend having some sort of plan in action going on. If I hate meal prepping, I know some people are really good at it and they do a really good job, but I really hate it. And I don't love, and I know some of my clients don't love like leftovers. So I do batch cook. So if I'm already cooking something, I will make something for the next day, and that's kind of where it goes. So I'll have a little bit of something going on as far as, maybe a breakfast or maybe a lunch, so I don't have to overthink that. With my girls and the family, I always have just healthier options for them to choose from. And I don't label things good or bad. I don't want them to have any sort of like any negative thoughts about food. But they know, and they're starting to know already. They're 12 and 15. They know that if they go spend a weekend with, friends and they're eating a bunch of junk, they come home and they're like, I don't feel good. And they're like, I ate like crap all weekend and I don't feel good. So they know, they can tell the difference, but that's something that I've been teaching them since they were little. So I don't have to do a lot of work anymore. I laid the foundation. So,
nice. Perfect.
Yes.
So
exactly.
I usually end by asking our viewers to share one takeaway they got from this with a coworker or a family member. And so what is your number one takeaway that you can share with your friends and coworkers tomorrow? And then also I'm going to ask our viewers, what action step can you take from this? What action step can you take based on our conversations, and what is that going to be? And so any parting thoughts or words of wisdom, Jenae, or how can our listeners contact you if they want to work with you as their health coach?
Yeah. So couple things as takeaways and whatnot. Move more. We are all so sedentary, and I noticed for sure during COVID, and now that I am on my computer more, I'm not moving. So move more. Intentional movement is going to do wonders for your energy, for burning fat if that is a goal of yours, boosting your metabolism, regulating your nervous system. Just that ambulation is just good, right? We're getting the blood flowing, we're moving lymph, we're doing all of these things. So take 10-minute breaks, stretch, move, get outside. Like I said earlier, majority of women are under proteined and under muscled. So eat your protein, lift some heavy things, whether that's your kid, few grocery bags, do some lifting, get those muscles involved, and balance your plates. A lot of people are overly carbohydrated, and carbs have their place. But if we are, focusing primarily, if that's like the bulk of our meal, so if you have a plate full of pasta, for example, you're going to feel really hungry after that because there's not a whole lot of extra like fiber and protein and fat to create that satiety. So if to rework that little pasta plate, if you have, a quarter of your plate with that pasta, because you can still have the pasta, right? A little bit of protein, maybe that other quarter of the plate is your protein source, 4 to 6 ounces, somewhere in there, depending on your need. And then filling the rest of your plate with like vegetables, right? A handful of salad, some broccoli, carrots, whatever you feel like, that's going to give you a lot more satiety than, just that pasta by itself. Plus you're going to be getting way more nutrients. And a lot of times if you add a little bit of butter or ghee or whatever oil of your choice to those vegetables, you're going to get more bang for your buck as well. So having balance, you don't have to starve yourself to feel better, but balance is key.
Jenae, that's been great. We're so grateful for you to come today, and I'll make sure that we put your contact information in the comments, and so people can get a hold of you as well. So I just want to thank the viewers for watching. Please subscribe, please like. We always appreciate comments as well. And for next week's episode, Dr. Mike, what do we have?
We're going to talk on how to improve your overall energy.
energy. So we're going to do it on energy. So till next week, we'll see you all then. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the Health Angle Podcast. Please subscribe to our channel and catch us for our next episode.